Hello, Uta here of Trans Widow, Uta Hagen YouTube channel and WordPress blog, utahagengrasswidow.wordpress.com. That is always in the description notes. And this is a carnivorous plant called a pitcher plant. And I decided, since it's thickened up and done so well on the edge of a wide bucket that I call my pond, with a solar a little fountain that goes in it, I decided I wanted to show you this. I'm using it to keep down the mosquitoes and stuff like that, and it's a very interesting plant. It lures insects down into these tubes and then eats them. And I'm wondering how I'm going to keep it over the winter. I'm hoping that I can plant it in some swampy place and overwinter it. If anyone knows, please write in the comments. And of course, I have a mixed bouquet here of dahlias and coneflowers, some phlox and lavender. And I am very, very busy because I'm having a lot of brainstorms about transplanting various bushes and changing some things around, and that leads to um, very absorbing days of work outside. Now, this is the comment of a man who ideates a female persona, um, who tells me that he just found my channel, and I just found that it would be best for me to block him. What I'm going to do is read the comment that I took out, and then I'm going to read the comments of these 5 men who think they are women or think they are something other than male, such as non-binary, whose names are Julia Serrano, Jacob Tobia, Andrea Long Chu, Alok Vade Menon, and Grace Lavery. And you'll understand after I've read this Brianna Jade's comment. You'll understand why I am going to now read it and then proceed into the quotable quotes from those 5 that I mentioned. So, and I have a lot of sympathy for this person who has a psychiatric illness and who has apparently been promised all sorts of unrealistic goals and stuff, and been told that he can reach them through hormones and surgeries and makeup and a man wearing dresses, that type of thing. So here we go. Just found your channel. Your hatred and disdain is almost palpable. So I'm not going to just go through this. I'm going to make comments. I was taught not to hate anyone, and facts are not the feeling of hatred. And this was actually in response to my readout of one of our trans widows' answers to the survey, 20 questions to ask a trans widow. And so what this dude, Brianna Jade, doesn't understand is that what I'm giving information about is what trans widows have experienced. I'm not going a great deal into our husbands and their claimed feelings, because we know that you cannot change sex. And actually, the doctors in the fine print, the surgeons who mess up your body with their machinations, actually will have in the fine print that you understand you are actually not changing sex. All right. So I'm also wondering, why say almost palpable? Just say palpable. To me, this is the use of a word, palpable, to sound very, very edified and to exert your superiority and condescend and patronize me. Then he goes on, I feel so sorry for you that your partner's transition left you so bitter and obviously twisted. Now, um, what's obviously twisted to me is giving children a fantasy called the genderbread man, or called the gender unicorn. That is twisted because you can't change sex. And we are finding that children who had puberty blockers in their systems from age 9, 10, 11, 12, and then went on, especially girls on testosterone and so on, have very serious iatrogenic harm, that is, harm from the treatment, such as liver and kidney failure, and from the surgeries, sepsis, which has been exposed in the death of this Griffin, who Exelancic had posted quite a series on this Griffin's terrible suffering post what's called very erroneously a phalloplasty. So I'm really trying to be as kind as I can to men like Nettie, my ex-husband, in saying, don't mess with your urinary tract. That's a very bad idea. And then Brianna Jade goes on, yes, I'm a trans woman, and I transitioned nearly 10 years ago and thankfully had the most wonderful woman as my partner. A woman who took the time to truly understand what I was going through and had the compassion and love to support me through it all. My sympathies to her. She might have a different version of this. He says, I had nursed her through nearly 15 years of cancer treatment, and as a result, she felt a sense of duty to me initially. So, what I'm going to point out is two separate things. First of all, this woman may be completely dependent on him because it sounds like he might be the one whose job is providing the insurance for cancer treatments. And 15 years of cancer treatment means that there was something serious. So she might not have the choice and she might be doing her best. Now, on his part, he might have developed this cross-sex ideation because of the grief of almost losing his wife, along with possible other traumas that he experienced. The detransitioners are telling us that that's quite prevalent. And so I would say that this kind of sounds like some kind of trauma bond that the two of them have. And, you know, she might not have had the strength to leave. And it says, the more I changed and became the woman I was meant to be, the more our love strengthened. Again, his point of view. I don't see words from her here. Today we are still happily married, and to be quite honest, she says that the new me is far better than the old. Read between the lines. Yeah. And then he goes on to say, being trans is not a deceptive or gaslighting coercion tactic. And in all honesty, most of us try to maintain the status quo. Actually, what you do is you claim to be a woman, which you are not. And if you have fathered children, then typically you claim to be the mother of those children. And this is female erasure. And the gaslighting is demonstrated in really just about every profile of a trans widow that I have presented here. And reminder, the epic documentary Behind the Looking Glass by Vaishnavi Sundar at Lime Soda Films channel will premiere on the channel on August 30th. So, trans world, in quotes, trans world, needs to watch this and understand from our realities what the wives go through. Unfortunately, he continues, we reach a point where we can no longer deny who we are. Again, there is a new term for this, now originated by a therapist, Elliot Kamenetsky. You can find his interview with Stephanie Winn at the channel Some Kind of Therapist. And Stephanie, the usual way with a PH, and Winn, Winn. Even if you just put that into the Google search, you will get that. Elliot Kamenetsky's term that more accurately describes what cross-sex ideation should be diagnosed as is identity-based obsessive-compulsive disorder. And that's exactly what it is, because it's very obsessive and compulsive. And it is based on thoughts that you are in the wrong body and your identity, which is amorphous. It is the thoughts in your head that your identity is actually as something that you are not. He says, if more of your subscribers made the effort to stay with their partners, 1/3 of whom were violent, either sexually and or physically, stayed with their partners and support them, then there wouldn't be two people in so much turmoil. Well, he doesn't know how much turmoil his wife is in. He actually doesn't know that. She's probably hiding it. And I wish for the both of the two of them a long life, but with no manipulation, coercion, and gaslighting of other people, especially children. All I can assume is that they fell out of love years ago. And this is a good excuse to move on, blaming their partner completely. Many of us had no idea we were going to be betrayed as thoroughly as we were. There was hidden spending, there was hidden infidelities, and then later came the defamations. Okay, so this is gaslighting, Brianna Jade. And listen to more of it. From Julia Serrano, a man who thinks he's a woman, who published a book called Whipping Girl. His most memorable quote is, I would imagine myself being sold into sex slavery and having strange men take advantage of me. Women actually don't have that Julia Serrano fantasy. Jacob Tobia, who has decided to keep the name Jacob, but he's a trans activist and, is into this sexual side of it. He says, if sexual objectification is so categorically awful, then why do I want it so badly? That's Jacob Tobia. Andrea Long Chu, who wrote a book called Females, and I'm wondering if it's Females in Quotes is the title. I can't remember now. Anyway, Andrea Long Chu, a man who ideates a female persona, says, autogynephilia, that is men who are turned on by the concept of that man being or becoming female, describes not an obscure paraphilic affliction, but rather the basic structure of all human sexuality. Because any man who says that he's a woman, of course, is an expert on all female sexuality. Then we have Alok Vaid-Menon, a trans activist and writer, uh, who, speaking of girls and the concerns raised about men dressing up as women and then encountering underage girls in the ladies' bathrooms, he says, there are no princesses. Little girls are also kinky. He just states it as pure fact because, of course, this man who I can't remember now if he calls himself a woman or if he calls himself non-binary something. Yeah, that's Alok Vaid-Menon. I have a couple of videos about him on the channel. And then there's number 5 is Grace Lavery, who is a trans academic, I guess, meaning that he has a professorship somewhere and author. I forgot to look up what he wrote, if he wrote a book. He says, to be the victim of honest, undisguised sexism possesses an exhilarating vitality. So that's Grace Lavery, who is a man ideating a female persona. All of this is objectionable. It is insulting to women. It's insulting to actual female sexual experience. It completely misinterprets what we experience, how the whole process of foreplay, all of that, as well as orgasm, etc., etc. And the reason that they can't be rational and just let women describe our sexual experiences ourselves is because they think that they're better at being female than we are because they have to put so much effort into it. And so what all 6 of these people don't understand, that is Julia Serrano, Jacob Tobia, Andrea Longchu, Alok Vaid-Menon, Grace Lavery, and this Brianna J. commenter, what they will never understand is female sexuality. Now, back to the bugs and the pond.